So we're with Brian Min, audio director at Anki, and we've been talking audio, and I've already discovered there's a lot more to this than meets the eye. So where do you start with a character like Cozmo? Blank slate. Is that a bit intimidating?
Yeah, it's definitely intimidating, mainly because we've not really done this before, and the role of audio for robotics there's really no standard. So one of the exciting things about that was it was a clean slate. We were able to figure out and try to use some of the things that we knew instinctively from different sort of forms that we knew to be knew to work, and we try to sort of implement that here. So we talked a little bit about things like stage play helping us to guide some of the aesthetic direction. But ultimately, it really came down to the founders and especially with Carlos, our character director, having a really strong vision for what Cozmo is about, and it's about his personality, it's about his character. So that's something that I'm familiar with, and so audio with the use of music and VO and sound effects can really help characters come to life. So we were really thoughtful about, what kind of music would reflect Cozmo's complex, kind of slightly rebellious and up to no good kind of, personality. What kind of music would fit right? We would talk about his voice and what would be something that's really unique but familiar, friendly, all those kinds of sounds that we're familiar with, and we would try to use that as a basis. And of course, sound effects, making him feel really futuristic and high tech and very much cutting edge. And so all those kinds of devices, once in the beginning we kind of got over that hump, it sort of came naturally, and it just kind of built into this thing, and we started to quickly prototype and got some really fun results, and we rolled it from there, and here we are.
And so one of the things that you mentioned there was the sound stage, and so maybe you could elaborate on that a bit. So it's in terms of where the sound's coming from. So you've got a speaker in Cozmo, but you also have a speaker on the phone. How do they work together?
Yeah, I think one of the challenges and the exciting opportunity for Cozmo is that he occupies a real physical space, and just like the smart device also occupies space in real space. And so one of the advantages that we wanted to one of the things we wanted to take advantage of was that very thing. So just like in a theatrical play, you would have a character on stage and sort of an orchestra pit, off stage. We wanted to kind of play with that concept. And so Cozmo would say things, and he would kind of act in his sort of world stage, and we would make sure that some of the sensibilities from theatrical play came into being. So we would do things like transfer sounds from the iOS device onto the bot and back, for things like that, to have a little bit of a play during certain key moments. Other times we would make sure that when Cozmo is saying things, we would make sure that we would get out of it. When Cozmo is not sort of particularly being too emotive, we would make sure that the music is up and rising, and it would react to what he does, just like a theatrical play would. So some of that stuff definitely served us well to kind of give us a good aesthetic guidance about what kind of choices to make. But then again, it's not a stage play. It's something that's a lot more complex, and so we have to solve some challenges there. But all in all, I think what we did was, again, we used that character personality as our sort of kind of like guiding light, and we tried to do everything we can to highlight that. And so I think it came out quite well.
And so you talk about character. We reference sort of a lot of film characters, don't we? Short Circuit, some Pixar characters, Star Wars, robots. But I think you're saying that they don't necessarily help that much in terms of identifying how Cozmo is going to sound.
Well, because that's the thing that I always try to kind of like point out. I think there's great things we can learn from characters like you said, R2D2 and Wally and even Jonny 5. But we have to remember that those aren't real robots; they're actual characters. And so, on one hand, it helped us to give some ideas. But I was really I wanted to make sure that the team realized that we had a real opportunity to make voices for a real robot, because Cozmo is a real robot, right? R2D2 is not a real robot; he's just a character. So some of the things we learned that ultimately we wanted to make sure that Cozmo had he needed a huge amount of range. When you talk about some of these characters, they tend to just have a certain kind of things that they say that's limited within that character, but Cozmo had to be really rich. And so some of the guidelines in the beginning we try to pick in terms of specific sounds tended to be a little bit limiting, so we kind of expanded on that more. When you say you're building a character, Cozmo had to be a really well-rounded, very versatile character, but that can do a lot of different things. And so when we chose certain kinds of sounds and the way we do things, we had to make sure that it was quite diverse. And so on one hand, it helped us to get the first buy-in and get a good reference going, but we had to really dig deep and abandon some of those notions and just go back to just good old just hard work to figure out how do we fill that out and make sure that there's enough depth instead of just some one-dimensional character that's on screen, where this is an actual working robot, so yeah.
And so part of that process feels like that there were voices that you didn't use. So are you able to sort of talk about some of the ones which didn't make it?
I mean, I think we mentioned that before. I think there was a range of voice studies that we did in the beginning, and it was just like some person with a British accent going, "Hello, I'm Cozmo. It's tea time," and it was just super creepy. And then other ones that were just like a bunch of pure sound waves and tones and things that are just very, very kind of similar to like R2. Just didn't it communicated to a point. But because Cozmo was on stage like the whole time, it just wasn't diverse, or it didn't have enough dynamic range to express the wide range of emotions. And so we had to come up with something in between. And I think that's what we did. We have sort of like a human element that drives the source, but we have a highly developed sort of effects chain that processes that so that it's very consistent and predictive. But all in all, it was a hybrid effort, and I think it was really successful.
And in terms of the wider music, obviously we've got Cozmo, and he speaks and he has his speaker, but you're also talking about sort of flooding the stage from the phone as well, and how that music seems to change. I never hear it start and stop, but it seems to move from one mood to another.
Oh yeah. I mean, that was one of the things. Again, like in a stage play, that's what you do. The music really helps to. We didn't want to be too on the nose all the time, and all great scores do a really good job of informing the audience how they should feel, but more also it feels very organic and natural. It never feels off-putting, or it never draws attention to itself, but it's still kind of like this warm blanket that surrounds you all the time. And so the idea for an interactive music score, we directly borrowed that from the best of what interactive gaming and the gaming industry brings. Some of the great interactive scores that are out there do a really good job of highlighting a character development through how the music works. And so
And are there particular games you referenced or you were thinking of when you're saying that?
I would say games like Journey. I think Austin is a good friend, and he's a big influence on me, and he did that quite well with this music telling the story of this hero that goes through this elaborate journey. That's a good example. There's a lot of other, the big blockbuster. Uncharted is another. I'm a big fan of that franchise. And
I was thinking of Uncharted.
Yeah, Uncharted is a great example. Uncharted 2, 3, and I haven't played 4 yet, but I look forward to it. So they have that very thing going on. They take the best of film thematic material, and they have an interactive element that evolves and reacts and counter reacts to what the character is doing. So that's exactly what we have. I mean, our system, our audio system, is as robust as as the best that the gaming world has to offer, and our score can grow and adapt and interact with what Cozmo's doing, how he's feeling, what he wants to do, and inform that. But more importantly, it highlights again all the time, his personality and how he feels, and so I think we're really successful in there as well.
That's really good to hear, how much work goes into Cozmo, and some of the talent you're drawing on here at Anki. So thanks for your time, really appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you.